All right, we're back again to talk about some more Wheel of Time trailers. It's me, the Taverian centrist, aka Dusty Cubes, and we got Tristram, aka Mask.
Hmm.
And I know last time we talked about the first trailer um, that we were super excited about,
Yeah,
and
and that was just a teaser.
yeah, and it was like 2 minutes long. I wasn't expecting that.
Mm.
I think the thing that was more teasery about it is that it wasn't really narrated. So
Mm. Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of showed scenes, and the community kind of had to speculate as to what was going on in
Mm.
those scenes. This next trailer, though, we get a completely cohesive narrative.
Yeah.
There's definitely some discussions about the plot and story
Hmm.
from the view of the characters. So I know primarily Moiraine is takes a prominent role in these, uh, the trailer at least. And
Well,
we do get to
yeah.
see like a couple different minor changes that they made
Yep.
in this. I think one of the most significant is that the Dragon Reborn could be 5 people. So we're thinking
Yeah.
it's the 3 boys.
But no, it's
Uh,
clear who she means. She means the three boys, Nynaeve and Egwene, because they're the Seal five. They're the 5 people she's going to take with them. There's no doubt which five she means.
right, and this must change something, right? So
Yep.
this, if they're
That,
all supposed to be roughly the same age, this means now that Nynaeve is not,
well, no,
the older one.
not
Or what do you
necessarily. Not
think?
necessarily. Um, Na- Nynaeve is a few years older, but she's still very much in the ballpark. And so, as long as it suggests that Moraine doesn't exactly know when the birth was, and so all they
Hmm.
have to do is say that she wasn't in the room when guitarist Sadai actually says he is born right now. Um,
Mm.
all they have to do is fudge that, and that's a much smaller detail than the much bigger detail of the dragon reborn is male, and that
Right.
and male and female in the Wheel of Time is a big deal. It's I know it's not cool in like woke 2021 to say men and women different, but in Wheel of Time, the men and women thing is a big deal because one of the big themes is men and women are different, they're both powerful, and they can do together things that they cannot do alone. And
Well,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
and
It's
it's a
all
big
goes
deal.
harkens back to, because Robert Jordan, he used multiple different cultures and
He does.
and integrated it into a story. I know one of the big themes of uh, Robert Jordan is trying to attain harmony between two sides.
Yep.
And, there's the Aes Sedai symbol. I don't remember if it's shown in the trailer, but I know for sure they released uh, a VR version of this
Mm.
trailer, which I did watch. And on the floor, if you look around in the room, on the floor is a big Aes Sedai symbol
Yep. The sort
right
of the
there.
flame and the flame and the dragon's fang, the black and the
Yeah.
white, the yin yang.
So yeah, it's basically a yin yang symbol, which symbolizes harmony between two sides. And that's kind of the big theme, as trying
Yeah.
to achieve that in order to make the world more balanced again.
Yeah, it absolutely is that they are absolutely different, but they are meant to complement one another.
Right.
And like the idea of the Aiel and the Wetlanders, the idea of men and women, the idea of the female side of the power and the male side of the power. It's all about that idea of achieving balance. And one of the problems that we see in this first series that this series will explore is that things are out of balance because there are no male channelers because male channeling makes you go crazy and
Right.
male channels broke the world. And that's why the world is in pain. That's why there needs to be a change. That's why there needs to be a movement. And that's why the
Yeah.
status quo gets thrown out, which is what drives the series. It worries me. It really does worry me. I understand why they've done it because if you say the hero has to be a man, there's immediately going to switch a bunch of people off. They're going to be, oh, I've seen this thing. This is one of those fantasy books where it's all about men who talk to men and fight men, and then a man is the big bad and the man is the big good and it's all over. And they're worried, I guess, that in 2021, that if that sounds like the point, then people are going to switch off or people aren't going to watch it. It's not going to have a mass appeal or whatever. I don't know what they thought Lord of the Rings did, but anyway. But it worries me, not because of like, oh, you shouldn't change anything in the book. No, it isn't that. This is my concern. If you say it can be any of the five of you, that means you're saying that the Dragon Reborn doesn't have to have the male side of the power. If the Dragon Reborn, like that, Nynaeve being a couple of years older, I don't care. If they say Nynaeve is exactly the same age, I don't really care. I think it makes it a little bit odd because her character acts specifically as an older mentor figure because she's on the council and she's had to grow up fast and all that jazz. So I think it would be a bit weird if she's completely their peer. I wouldn't like it, but it's minor. If you want to ignore that, go for it. If you don't even want to call her the wisdom, if you just want to say she was one of the women's circle, go for it. But if the key point here for anyone listening is that the Dragon Reborn, the reason he is so feared is that he's meant to be maybe the person who'll save the world, but because he's clearly and definitely and 100% male, and he's definitely clearly and 100% a channeler, that's why we fear him. Because we know that he will, one, be the savior, but two, that he will channel, which means for sure in this world he will go insane.
Right.
And if you just remove that, if that's not the prophecy, then why was anyone scared? Why did anyone hesitate to go find the dragon? If the dragon could have been a female Aes Sedai, why weren't the Aes Sedai all interested in finding? Why would anyone want to suppress it?
Right.
Yeah. And that is what worries me about this one of the five of you business. That's what worries me.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they clear that up. I'm hoping they don't take some giant weird divergence and make somebody else the dragon. That'd be really weird. But
if they make Egwene the dragon, I may stop watching because it will be very hard. But the thing is, right? If Egwene is the dragon, like, what is Rand's role? Because Rand's entire character arc is driven by him becoming, like, by his destiny. Like, Perrin has an arc. It's very clear. He has all this stuff going on. Matt has this arc. He has all this stuff going on. But Rand's arc is driven by that. Even his heritage, his, like, parenting and all that is all wrapped up in this. I mean, it's not even really
right, the prophecy and everything else.
It's his whole arc. Everyone else has an arc, a part that is more than just the main arc. But Rand's arc is the main arc, and that's all there is to it. So if they take that off him, I quit. I quit.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I went.
Too big a change.
I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I was checking out some of IGN's videos, and they did some interviews with the actors, and it's pretty clear based off of the interviews that Rand is going to be the Dragon Reborn. Like, they don't say it explicitly.
Yeah. But Rand is still Rand, is basically, he's still going to be basically that character. They're going to interpret it a little differently. Great. They're going to, like, explore things. They're going to give the girls more airtime if that's what they feel. But actually, I don't think they need to, because the girls get as much airtime as the boys anyway.
Right.
I have no problem with Moiraine having a bigger role. I don't know why they did it. Well, no, I do know why they did it, but I don't think it was necessary. I think they could have made them cool and interesting like the book does without needing a throw in. It could be one of the five of you. I think they've given themselves a lore problem that just was unnecessary. But I think they've done it based on, we want the new audience who don't have a clue to think, oh, it could be any of the five. And they think that mystery is more exciting than the problem of, well, why is anyone worried about the Dragon Reborn if these women are all channeling all the time and the dragon could be one of them? To me, there's a logical fallacy there that anyone who thinks about it for a couple of hours will be able to go, hang on a minute. Well,
maybe they'll have a brown come and kind of clear it up and said, "Oh yes,
I know,
we
like
looked
Luz
back
Theron
into
was.
we looked back and yes, it seems that it would only be a male or something like that."
I'm even okay with them saying that a person can be reborn, like Luz Theron could be reincarnated as a woman this time around.
But also still, wield Sidar
Yeah,
instead.
but just
Okay.
but the thing is, if you say that, right, if you take that out, then the problem is, then why the fear? Why the fear?
Hmm.
Why the hiding? Why isn't everyone just on Moraine's side? Like why the politics and everything? Like the
Well, it
fear
could also be,
of male
if to be
challenge.
honest,
Yeah.
um, maybe it's a feint because she also knows that the
Mm.
dark is also interested
Oh,
in
I'm,
pursuit.
I'd love that. I'd love that. I hope they explain it away. I really do. I
I'm
hope they say,
hoping.
but I don't think so. And the fact they include it in the trailer suggests that maybe someone didn't realize what a big statement that was, or they did realize and they're like, we're going to throw this controversy out there and we know it will get them all talking, because this is the line.
Maybe.
This is the line that all the fans are talking about. This is the
Right.
one line in this trailer that has got us all buzzing, because it's, and like all the ones who were like, yeah, it's going to be super woke and they're going to ruin it, is all based. They have no other evidence other than that line, and that is what they use. I'm like, whatever. I mean, like, the point is, it's going to be a different version of the book. I've got to accept that, and hopefully, I can enjoy it. If they, I just think it takes away so much from the background if the dragon doesn't have to go mad. If there's a chance that he isn't going to go mad, then it just removes so much threat from the
Hmm.
story. And I think in a story, you want a lot of threat, personally.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's my view on the one of the five of you line. I was
you,
oh
you must have been face palming or something when you
I
heard
was like,
that. I was like, "Are you
no,
what? What's going on here?"
did you not read the book?
Well, I'm going to be optimistic,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and I believe they'll probably resolve that issue favorably.
yeah.
But we'll
I,
see. We'll see what
I, I
happens.
think I think what they'll do, if I'm honest, is I think they'll go, it could be any of you, and then like, oh, but now we found out it is a bloke, and then all the rest of it will apply to the rest of the series. And
Right.
but it'll still make people like me go, you could have just ignored that and gone, or they've completely like tricked us, and she's
Hmm.
talking to five blokes, because there are some other boys who were there right at the beginning who never do anything in the story, who are about their age, but get ignored because she realizes early on that they're not Tavern.
Hmm.
And so if they've done this just to cause controversy, and then aha, it's the five boys, I will be like, okay, Rafe, you got me, and I'll move on. Anything else that you? What's the next point you want to talk about in the trailer?
Well, in the trailer, we do get to see, um, Moraine talking about the strength of the blood in the two rivers.
Yep, I
And
like
I
that.
like that they kind of kept that theme where, okay, Moraine comes,
Mm.
but in trying to subvert like the trope of the wizard comes and everyone happily comes along, the first thing we hear out of Matt's mouth is, "You must be out of your mind."
Yeah, yeah, we're we're not going nowhere. And one of
Yeah,
the things I really liked about that is in the trailer itself, because the trailer is like a piece of storytelling all of itself. And
right.
one of the things that's cool is right at the beginning you have Matt making that kind of declaration, and then right at the end you have just the very last words is like Gwen and Perrin talking, and she's just like, "Do you think
Hmm.
we'll ever go back?" No, we won't. So the first thing,
Hmm.
will we leave? No, we're not leaving. You must be insane. And then by the end, will we ever return? Nah, we won't.
Yeah, it's the Winter Night, and I love how they make
I love
Winter
that.
Night a huge deal in the
Yeah,
show. Like Winter Night was like an aftermath in the book, so we
yeah.
never really got to see it happen.
Happened off screen,
Right.
basically.
So we get to see it happen, which I'm loving. You
Yeah.
see that there's this army coming down the mountain, and it's this huge threat. It's not
Mm.
just like a couple
They could have all.
cloaked
Yeah.
guys. It's a huge army that's coming to find the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, which is so cool. I think Daniel Green made this point. He's like, the Dark One did the right thing. He's like, aha, this could be one of the potentials could be here. So instead of sending like a couple of ruffians, because it's level 1, he's like, no, send an army.
Yeah, right away.
And if it isn't for Moraine, they're all dead. It's that simple.
What do you think of the possibility of Narg?
I, I wouldn't. I think they have him in. Obviously, he's there. But what I do is, if I'm Rafe, I don't have him talk.
Do you think he's just going to be silent?
I think he'll burst in and attack, and then everything can happen. But as long as we don't get in Narg's head and we don't hear him talk, then there's no question if Trollocs can talk, if Trollocs are thinking things more than monsters. Because it never occurs again in the series, I think if Robert Jordan rewrote the series, I don't think he has Narg. I think he has a Trolloc burst in. And I think if I'm Rafe Judkins, I am not going to have him talk. I'm just going to have him burst in and do what he does, do the fighting, do the bit with Rand, bit with Tam, and that's that. That's what I would do. That is what I would do.
Well, one thing we do know is that Trollocs do talk. However, they have their own language, right?
Yeah, and their own writing.
Yeah, so it's that Narg is like the only Trolloc ever known to speak common tongue.
Human, yeah.
So yeah, because we do know that Balsamon is a word in the Trolloc tongue.
Yeah, and when they're in Faldara, underneath they find like writing like evil prophecies in Trollocy language. It's all like filthy, disgusting. Like it suggests that the language is very rude, like quite vulgar and very base. But like they have these like dark etchings underground, like where Padan Fain was and stuff.
Oh yeah, the prophecy that was kind of written in blood.
Tongue. Yeah, but it's not in common. It's in like the Trolloc language. And so we know that they do have a crude way of writing as well. So he can get away with it. If I was him, I wouldn't bother, because if you're going to have a Trolloc speak common in the first episode of your show, people are going to expect Trollocs to speak again, just like they did in the books. And so why establish that when you just don't want that problem? And you can still have him, and he still bursts in and does everything, and all the fans who know him go, "That's Narg," but that's all you need to do, right? And you just save yourself the trouble, and you have a cool action scene, and there's no problems for your continuity. So that's my guess. If they have him talk, I don't think that's a big deal. But I think that he's clearly there. That was clearly Narg. Or Trolloc 3, who impersonates Narg.
Well, I wonder if in like the IMDb credits they're gonna have Narg there as one of the Trollocs.
Yep. Stuntman 4
we'll have
got
to
play
see.
Narg. Or Stuntman 1, 2, and 3 just got to play Trolloc 4, 7, and 9. By the way, just as we're talking about Narg, let's talk a little bit about the Trollocs. What did you think about the way they've visually realized Trollocs?
Well, I thought they did an awesome job. I watched Rafe's kind of explanation on how they took on Trollocs, and I didn't know, but there's a mix of practical effects and CG there, and I loved that you couldn't really tell that they used CG. I thought it was mostly just makeup and
effects.
Yeah, so I thought it was great that they subtly used CG to enhance it, but it didn't overpower any of these characters. So I was really impressed by that. Me being unable to tell whether they used it or not is pretty amazing.
My impression is that most of it's practical effect.
Right.
And I think that's the way to go, because one of the things is, you can't make it look perfectly realistic, but actually CG ages much quicker than practical effects do.
Right.
And so it's like, and the thing is, right, we're watching a fantasy program. we've bought in, okay? We know these guys aren't real. We're just going to buy into your story. Just trust us. Like, imagine we're going to a play and watching you come in and you're like, haha, I'm a lion. We know you're not a lion, but we're just going to accept that for the purposes of this play that you are. And I think they've done a good job. I think the artistry is amazing. So, in my opinion, I'm really pleased that they decided to go for a heavily practical effects base, especially considering it looks like they did not stint the art department on the money. It looks like this is high quality practical effects, and
Right.
and I love the fact that they weren't just generic. Like the Trollocs look different. They look like they've got these different animalistic features, but they don't just look like 20 goat men. Yeah, I
Right.
love that. I really felt that captured what Robert Jordan was trying to put across. That they're like almost mutated, but they are animalistic. I just thought I'm a really, really I'm sold on the Trollocs that I saw in the trailer. I'm
Yeah,
sold
I'm
on them.
I'm sold on them so far, and I'm glad that they're using them kind of, at least in the trailer, sparsely. That they're cloaking them for the most part in darkness, which kind of keeps them a bit more creepy and
Yeah,
mysterious.
and and that also goes with the lore, right? Trollocs and Fades tend to attack at night. They don't
Hmm.
like attacking during the day. They like the darkness. And so I mean it's in line with the lore. It looks good. The Fade looks great. I think I love the Murdral. I think he looks creepy, he looks dark, he looks sinister. I'm like, yes, to all Darkspawn. By the way, not in like an evil satanic way, by the way. Yes, to all Darkspawn. No, but I think the showrunners have done a great job, and whoever their art department, their makeup department is, and presumably most of the people acting as Trollocs will be stunt
Hmm.
guys or stunt
Yes.
women. And I just think respect to all of you. You really come across bestial, dangerous, threatening, and I'm like, bravo. I think that's a win. I've not heard anyone up to now criticizing it who's seen the trailer. They all seem to be
Yeah.
pretty pleased.
Because I have a feeling that they're going to go ahead and abandon the Drakkar, which is one of the Darkspawn that
Yeah.
is featured in the first book.
Well, we
Because
don't see much of a Drakkar. It's only one.
yeah, but there's other methods in which the Dark One can use as spies, like the
Yeah.
Ravens, for instance, that they can play that up. And I wonder how they're going to play that separation up, or if they're what they're going to do about that in particular.
I
Um,
I don't know if they're gonna have it. I will
I
see
think they are, because there is this one scene
where they're
where
alone.
Perrin and Egwene are being circled by white cloaks,
Mhm.
and Aram is off, like,
Oh, you saw Aram?
unconscious.
Ah,
Yeah. So if you watched
I,
Rafe Judkins' breakdown of his own trailer, he does say the man lying in the bottom corner is Aram.
oh well, if that's the case, then that's definitely meaning they're doing Tinkers, and if they're doing
Yeah, for
Tinkers,
sure.
then they are doing the split. And
Yeah.
it's true that we did see a white cloak bit, so that makes sense. All right, guys.
Ah.
So if they're doing the split, I'm okay. So, but hang on, let's not jump ahead.
Mhm.
So what did you think then of the rest of the beginning? So, like, should we talk about Moraine? Like, cause the beginning bit's all about her, right?
Right. So I know they go through um, I think what we do know is that they're taking elements from what it seems New Spring.
Yes, it has to be New Spring. It has to be. But I think doing it as flashbacks, which I am big fan of them doing it as flashbacks instead of doing like a second season on New Spring.
Yeah, I don't think a season on New Spring would work, and
No.
I think it's great that they're using this flashbacks sequences to kind of pull from that book. But we do see. I know it's a controversial part of of this trailer, but we see Lan being not so much of his stoic self.
Yeah,
He's kind of
being emotional.
crying out with a lot of emotion, which is not really what we would think of weigh in,
Yeah,
right?
I'll forgive it though. I mean, I agree. People suggest that like land makes mountains seem emotional. So in the books, like he's described as being more stone-like than stone. So it is a bit sad, but I understand that the showrunners are probably worried that if he doesn't connect with the audience, that people won't care about his eventual love story or anything like that. So I imagine they just think we need to make him more relatable. I wish they wouldn't, but I'm okay if they feel they need to go there. So I just from the new spring angle, um, one of the things it shows is the oath rod. So I'm assuming we're going to get to see how her and Lang got together. If not in the first episode, in later episodes, I think that will be a flashback. And because their relationship is clearly going to be important, I think the things we see about the capture of Logain will also be hopefully flashbacky. But the big thing that we see, of course, is that Moraine swears an oath on the oath rod. And that, I think, is a little controversial. So I'd be interested in knowing what you think about that because the oath that she makes is different from the oath in the books.
Okay, so I'll just say this. One, I was muted because an employee asked a question.
No problem.
So which particular item did she say that didn't
She
quite
says,
match?
I will never, basically, it's truncated. She says, I will never use the one power as a weapon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the actual oath, and this is important because, for those who maybe don't know, Aes Sedai make three
It's
key
supposed
oaths.
to be other than Darkspawn or the defense of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
life or my warders.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll just get to it. The oaths are unbreakable because they're sworn on the oath rod. So like you can't just like be a bit rebellious as an Aes Sedai and like break them, right? So you speak no word that isn't true, make no weapon for one man to kill another, and then finally, never to use the one power as a weapon except against dark friends or shadow spawn. So you can use it against Trollocs, you can use it against Murdral, you can even use it against dark friends. They can be human as long as you know they're dark friends. Then the inhibition for the that stops the Aes Sedai using her powers as a weapon just stops, and they can then act. Or in the last extreme defense of her life and the life of her warder or another Aes Sedai. So she can't just use it to defend her warder or her. She has to believe they're under threat of death. Only then can she use the power as a weapon. Now the problem is if you take that out, I get that they're simplifying it, but if you take that out, then within episode 1 we have a problem because Moraine starts using the weapon as a power in the very first episode. We can see it in the trailer. Hello, fireballs. So they need to give that oath in its fullness. They have to.
Well, it's possible. Maybe they could have had just truncated it for the trailer
I
itself.
hope so. I hope so. Because if they don't give that, they're causing themselves lore problems straight away. Straight away. And that technicality is really important because that's what the Aes Sedai are all about, right? Technicalities. It's like
Yeah,
because
technicalities and skirting those technicalities in
yeah,
every way possible.
but that's why I say technicality, right? So it's like it's only if you keep to it precisely and you don't have to keep to the spirit of it. And absolutely, as you say. So like this idea of I remember in one of them, they're like, one of the Aes Sedai walks in one of the books. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go walk it in the middle of the battle. And they're like, why are you going to do that? It's like, now I feel threatened. Okay, boom. like deliberately put herself in a position where she might die so that she could overcome the third oath, which was certainly not its intention. Oh, I've just realized how late it is. I'm talking really loud. Um, and the speaking no word that is untrue is also in that line where, as you know, that's something that the Aes Sedai have become incredibly adept at circumventing.
Right, right. Oh yes. So yeah, that big opening oath rod scene. We're like, oh man, they're busting out the oath rod and everything.
Yeah.
So that has to harken back to New Spring for sure.
But it's really good because it sets up the Aes Sedai, who are going to be such an important part of this series. And we don't have time for loads of people to talk about Aes Sedai loads so that we can get the background like we did in the books. So it's a really good way of show, don't tell, and giving the viewers a very quick insight into what the Aes Sedai rules are so they understand why people treat the Aes Sedai the way they do.
One thing of note as well is we got to see Moraine with her Kasara forehead jewel.
Mm-hmm. Which is very cool. Love that.
So I think that's probably from what Rafe Judkins explained was that whenever they have formal ceremonies, you'll see Moraine wearing that. But he also knows what's up with that as well as like her little trick that she has using that for eavesdropping. I don't know if they're going to get into that with the show. They may or may not, but we'll see.
I imagine they will, just because it's a cool little trick that they can use to make sure that she's aware of things that she shouldn't be aware of. I love the costuming. I think the costuming's spot on throughout. People have a variety of clothes, etc.
Fall Dara. I really wanted to talk about Fall Dara.
All right, go for it.
In the Borderlands, obvious cultural ties to Asian societies there, and there were those obvious ties in the book as well. The top knots.
Yep.
The kind of like the samurai code of ethics that they have.
Absolutely.
And man, I was like really excited to see Faldara and see how they portrayed that. It's very short. We see them walking. Well, first we see a cut of the fortress itself.
Yeah, and it looks like a fortress. It looks like a proper fortress.
Yeah, it doesn't look like like I know it's a little different in the book because I believe there's a city and then a fortress, and this is just a straight up fortress in the middle of like a valley. And you can see Tarwin's Gap like right behind it.
Yeah, I think they're going like they know what the theme of the Borderlanders is, and they're just embracing that theme.
Yeah, so they got Tarwin's Gap like right behind the fortress, and we get to see what these Borderlanders look like, and yeah, they look like it looks like it's very inspired by Asian cultures. We don't get to see like a real close up of Agilmar, but we kind of see like him standing out in the balcony with his back towards the camera. We know who it is.
Yeah.
We know who that character is, even though they don't name him by name. But I was really excited about them showing the Borderlands and a very short scene from what looks like from the Isle War.
Yes, that's what I'm beginning to think that must be because we see the Isle take down the knight.
Right, and everyone was very excited about seeing an Aiel doing battle on screen.
Yeah.
So it was confirmed by Rafe that that was the Blood Snow, and so this is kind of like a flashback moment.
Right.
And so we see if you take a really close look at the trailer, I think some people have done some analysis and. On the breastplate, you could see like the 9Bs of Ilion.
Okay.
So there's been some speculation whether that might be Tam getting in a tussle with an Aiel and then later defeating him. But I'm not sure if they would show Tam like that because we do know that Rand was found on Dragon Mount, but he doesn't really talk too much about the Isle War, but it would be nice, yeah, to see a flashback to it. That would be pretty cool.
It would. It would. I think the flashback to the Isle War will actually be like in the Moraine New Spring stuff. I think.
Right, it would have to be because that's
it'll
kind
be
of
her
when it
talking
happened.
about there's a war going on here, and like showing clips of that war, and then be like during that awful time, and then Kitara Sedai goes, "A baby cries on Dragon Mount." That's how I think that will go down. I don't. I'm hoping it won't be Tam's fever dream shown like this, because I would like. I don't. I'm not as bothered about that if that is the change they go with, and it's Tam telling the story. But I would prefer it to be Tam's fever dream because of, again, the angst it gives Rand. Am I?
Right.
Am I not his son? Like, did he just pick me up one day? Like, and that whole, am I like an orphan in some ways, is just, I think that that sort of unknowingness and Rand's uncertainty plants these seeds of doubt that I think are very, very useful for the story, useful for the angst of the story, for the fear of and the uncertainty and the mystery. And that's what books are about. They're about questions that don't have answers yet, and the book promises that those answers will come. And I think the show needs to do the same.
Hmm. So one big reveal in this particular trailer is we get to see White Cloaks.
Oh yeah, do we see White Cloaks? We see the one of the three of them surrounding a couple of people, and you've just told me it's Perrin and
Perrin and
Egwene
Egwene.
and Aram on the floor.
And there's one other it
Oh,
shows.
there's a
So
much
this
bigger
is,
one.
yeah, people were, I was looking around social media. Some people were upset of how easily a white cloak could gain like these Aes Sedai rings.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
probably a good thing to make the white cloaks a bit more dangerous,
yeah
instead of like these bumbling fools that just kind of get lucky. Because that's what it seems like in the book. Is like they oftentimes get lucky when they capture people
well,
or
one of the things it makes clear is that if they take out an Aes Sedai, it's mainly because she hasn't been aware of them. They like,
right. They're going to use like stealth tactics to take them out with maybe like a crossbow in the back. Aes Sedai has to see you. If they don't see you
yeah.
coming, then you could still take them out. They're not, invulnerable or anything like that. But the particular white cloak that they show, that is Valda. And from what we know what Valda, and they kind of make this clear in the
You know it's Boulder?
trailer. Valda was the guy that was collecting the Aes Sedai rings, and he's
W-
drinking
Yeah,
his wine.
do we know that? Is that been confirmed?
Yeah, and the casting.
Okay.
Even Rafe Judkins mentions this because Rafe
Oh,
is he did a whole breakdown of some of these, and he did say that that was Valda,
all right. So that's
which
going to be
makes
Boulder.
sense.
Yeah, because you don't
Makes
want to introduce lots of bad. You don't want to have to introduce too many big bads. So that's cool.
And I think Valda is probably the worst of the worst, like
Yeah.
concerning like the white cloaks. Like some of
Yep.
the earlier white cloaks are more like a gray area immorality.
Yep.
They're not. They're like, okay, you got Bornhold, who he's not particularly evil.
He's just too gung ho.
He's Yeah, he's just trying to do what he's being told to do. And he even kind of puts the brakes on some of the more gung ho members. Like he puts the brakes on Child Vyar when he just wants to kill Perrin, but um, like Bornhold makes it, hey, the right thing to do is to take these captives along with us so that they can be questioned. And I know Child Buyer just wants to kill them outright because it's convenient, so that they don't have to drag them along and waste resources. So, Bornhold's not particularly evil. His son isn't really particularly evil either. He's just got a drinking problem that kind of escalates throughout the series. But Vyar, he is just bad news. I'm sorry, not Vyar, Valda. Vyar's
Mm.
pretty bad news too, but he's kind of low rung in the hierarchy. Valda, he's just a bad guy. He enjoys what he does, and he's basically a torturer.
Mm. Well, he isn't torturing her. He's killing her, right? Burning her at the stake.
Well, yeah, but we know that he's like the head of What he's like the head of the Inquisition, so to speak,
Valda?
right? Yeah, the questioners, right?
No.
Valda's not
Valda.
a questioner.
No, he's the one who ends up like being the leader. Um, the questioner's different. I'm just trying to think
Oh,
of his
it's the
name.
other guy with the Asian name.
Yeah, Eamon Valda is the one who is. Well, I don't want to spoil
He's
the
the
end of the
one,
series, but he ends up becoming. He's
the
like a
coup. He's the
yeah
coup guy.
yeah. He's the coup guy. Um,
Okay, yeah,
uh,
Valda. I was mistaking him with the
uh,
other guy.
yeah, Aswana. No, Asuna.
Asanawa. Here's what I think. I think basically
They'll just make them the
for
same person.
convenience, yeah, for convenience, they're going to combine those characters. That's
Yeah,
what it seems like they're already doing.
makes complete sense.
Yeah, because it looks like he's in the questioner role where he's doing the torturing and things. So
Yeah,
yeah, it sounds like they might be combining
makes sense.
Asanawa and
They're
Valda.
both super badass white cloak leaders. Why not? And they may not even do the questioners as a separate subpart of the white cloaks. Just have white cloaks, and I'm fine with that as well. Like you again, you have to make sacrifices when you're going to get these huge book series into this smaller TV series. But I do think it's a problem. They do need to explain how he has captured an Aes Sedai, um,
Yeah, we're
because
gonna have to see how that figures out. Yeah.
because like one of the things that they need to make clear is gagging an Aes Sedai doesn't stop her using her powers at all. Like
Mm-mm.
this isn't like one of these fantasy series where the wizard needs to talk. And
Well,
so
blinding them would though. So I don't know, like, because I know
not
the
necessarily, not
well, I know
necessarily.
it would be pretty difficult to direct a weave without sight.
Yeah, but you can because like people do weaves from inside boxes, as you know.
Oh, that's
Um,
right.
you just might not know where to aim it, but you can still go outward. um,
True.
so clearly, yes, being able to see and hear and be free is helpful, but there's no need to move or to speak or to see or to hear to use the weaves. But they may change that in this series, maybe to make
Either
it.
that or maybe they introduced fork root early. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And because the person who does introduce Forkroot later on is a very minor character, so it's entirely fine if they have a way, but it should be explained. What we need to know is like I know some people are like, why is everyone obsessed with this being like the books? We're fine with it being different, but if it is different, the new rules need to be established. So we need to know what the power can and cannot do in this version. We also need to know how you can stop someone with the power in this version. And as
Right.
long as they explain that to us early on, then fine. But if they don't explain that, then there's no way that an Aes Sedai should be able to be tied to a stake and burnt alive like a witch in the medieval ages. One of the things I think that might be quite funny, not funny, that's the wrong word, but if they're actually killing like a wild woman, like someone who's a little bit of a wilder, or people
Hmm.
like or a herbalist, and they're just counting her as an Aes Sedai. But I don't think that's the case because of the clip of him like adding an extra ring to his
Hmm.
to his list. So and she's wearing yellow, so they're kind of going heavy on. She's clearly an Aes Sedai. He's clearly killed a bunch, and it's like General Grievous picking up his lightsabers. Um, and so I do think that needs explanation. But as long as it is explained, I'm fine with it. I'm fine if they've given different ways to stop Aes Sedai doing the things. If they say that in this version, an Aes Sedai has to be able to move and actually physically weave in order to do the weaves, fine.
Hmm.
If that's what you say, fine. And then, of course, tying her up does stop her. So I'm as long as there's an in-universe reason given, then I can live with it. But at the moment, it does look odd.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, they're uncharacteristically more powerful and able to stop an Aes Sedai.
Yeah, I don't think
Because
they.
I,
Yeah, they don't look more powerful. The Aes Sedai looks weaker.
yeah, could be that as well. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. Because it doesn't make sense for an Aes Sedai to simply just kind of sit there and get burned.
Yeah,
They
they just
definitely have the right to protect themselves,
Yeah,
you know,
and
if
like being
they're
able to like
being
cut off.
killed.
Yeah, they could just cut off the ropes, right? Or just hold him up in a weave of air. So that there has to be a way that for some
Or
reason,
extinguish the flames, right?
yeah, just weaves of water. But there has to be some reason that she can't channel in that scene, basically. And if they make a reason, great. Great, great, great. And I love the fact that the White Cloaks will then be more threatening. I think the White Cloaks have to be more threatening, especially considering in this series we won't be seeing Forsaken. So the White Cloaks, the Trollocs, the Murdral, they are the threats of this season. So they have to be scary. And
Hmm.
so I'm a big fan of that. Bring that on. And just sell it to us, Rafe. Sell it to us. Make
So
us believe it.
what did you think of that very small clip of Tom?
Um, it's yeah, like I don't know. I know some people. I know one person I talked to is utterly devastated that Tom is not going to play a harp. Um, I, I I'm not devastated that Tom isn't playing a harp. I'm okay with Tom being a little different. I I don't think it doesn't look bad to me. I think but I'm not dead. I'm not a big Tom fan. Like I'm not sold. I'm not like gonna put my kingdom on that hill. So for me, the main thing about Tom that has to happen is, does he look like he can tell a story? I hope that they give him some moment in the show where he tells a story or recites a poem or something, and just have him be a good bard. And if he can pull that off and a bit of old man wisdom, like I've seen the world, kids. I'll look after you. I'm good with that. I don't really have an opinion on this. Like it's less than a second, isn't it? The clip.
Yeah, because I know a lot of what Tom did was kind of tie in the history of the world through some of his tales.
Yeah,
Um, and he's also like a protector for the boys when they got separated,
yeah.
and
He's
a huge
a
mentor in the
mentor.
first
Yeah,
book. Yeah.
I think if you ask me, Tom is the other half of Gandalf. So if Lan is Aragorn and Moraine is Gandalf, she is the wizardy part of Gandalf, but the old friend guy, that's Tom. The one who's seen it all before and is a bit weathered, that's the Tom. And he makes them feel safe a lot more than Moraine does, because when Moraine shows up, they're all like, "Oh my goodness, you might be the problem." Certainly, Matt thinks she's the problem, and once Rand realizes who he might be, he's thinking, "Oh my goodness, you could be the problem." And a
Mhm.
lot of them are suspicious of her, but none of them are suspicious of Tom. They all love Tom, and I think Tom is probably going to have a small role. I don't think because I don't think they're going to do singing for their supper and things like that.
Mhm.
There's just no time for that. But so I think Tom will be more of a background character. I was a little worried that they would cut him entirely, so I'm glad they didn't do that.
Just talking about just Winter Night briefly and
Yeah,
showing some of the characters. What do you think about them showing Rand's preference for the bow?
I'm all over that. I'm all over that. I think that's how he found the void originally. I'm a big fan of that. I think that's great.
We also get a very iconic scene where we see Nynaeve tug her braid, so to speak, in a very aggressive and forceful way.
Yeah. Well, it's important that Nynaeve have a braid. It's important that you keep it, and I hope that they do. Yep, I'm all over Nynaeve and her braid. Let's have let's have that. Let's keep that. It costs them nothing to do that, which kind of like flings it behind her head, doesn't she?
Yeah, she just kind of chucks it to the
Yeah,
side in a huge motion of defiance. It's like a defiant
yeah, like
braid tug.
yeah.
Like, come
Bring
at
it
me.
on.
Like, what do you
Yeah,
got?
come at me, bro. Um,
um,
we also see Tam fighting, which I think is awesome. I want
Right
that.
inside what we assume to
Is the
be
hut?
his, the farmhouse.
Yeah,
We see Tam hold the sword up in front of him and then unsheath it.
yeah,
So that must be the Heron Mark blade, hopefully, that
yeah.
he's
Oh,
carrying
definitely.
there.
If they miss that out, that would be just stupid. Um, one of just because it costs nothing to have it in. But one of the other things is we see that warder again, don't we? The warder we saw crying in the first section.
We do.
Um,
I might have missed that part.
yeah,
Where does he pop up at?
he's just talking to them. I think he's telling them Aes Sedai were the defenders or something like that. Um,
Oh, okay.
but one of the things that reminded me of obviously is his devastation. The first one, his Aes Sedai is killed, and you know what I think? I think
Hmm.
he might be Elias.
You might think that might be
Elias
Elias.
Elias Makara, yeah, because he used
Hmm.
to be a warder, as we know,
Oh, you mean the axe guy?
the
Oh,
Wolf brother,
you know what? It might be. You might be right because I don't know if
because
they actually name him in IMDb or not.
he's off on like he's off. He's had to abandon being the warder now, hasn't he?
Right.
And he teaches Perrin about the Wolf Brother, and that all happens during the separation, remember? And if the separation happens and he meets them with the Tinkers, it's a very good opportunity to slide him in. And they could even kind of fudge things a little and say that he and his Aes Sedai have only recently been split up and that she died taking Loghain. And they can just nicely loop it all together. Just a thought. I don't know that, but that's just a thought that went through my mind. Because then
Mm,
you have the person who's lost his Aes Sedai, who it looks like they're giving several scenes to, be a person who has a point for the rest of the story. And
right.
when you're in a situation like this, like you talked about with Valda and Asuana becoming potentially the same character, I think they're going to try and do that here as well, where they're going to try
Mm,
and do as much merging as they can, every scene doing two or three things. So if that happens, I'm going to say I called it. That's what I'm saying.
mm. Hey, it's possible.
Um,
You never
and
know.
so, what do you think is, on the Lan crying scene, and it's also the Moraine crying scene? They're both wearing
Mm,
white, and white is obviously the funeral color of what's it called? Of Wheel of Time. So I think that's going to be from a flashback, and maybe after a bunch of deaths in there, maybe back in the wars. So I think maybe that might be where he goes and finds that Malkir is gone,
mm.
or something of that nature. I'm hoping it's something fairly major like that to kind of express that. What I'm hoping is that that will be the beginning of Lan, the stone faced. Like I think that I'm hoping that's what they might do, because I really hope that they don't make Lan this screaming berserker warrior, because that would be very annoying.
Yeah, I know Rafe Judkins did mention that there was a reason that he had Lan expressing himself in that way.
Good, good.
He said that he was trying to demonstrate how the water bond works and how you
Oh, so
have some.
because Moraine's upset, he's upset.
Right, right.
Oh, okay, that's quite cool. All right, I'm
Yes.
much happier with that actually, and it did.
Yeah, because I think he had to talk about it because it probably got a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
Why is Land crying? He would never do that ever. you know.
But
So
his
yeah, he
answer
said
has
that
to
he
be,
was.
my land
Yeah,
does.
yeah, he was basically just trying to show like how emotions are shared
Mm.
in the water bond.
Oh, thanks for mentioning that, Dusty. I had no idea, but actually that now makes tons of sense, because in the clip it shows him doing that, and then it pans
Mm,
to Moraine and she's crying. So that is actually really good. And actually, I'm a big fan of that. Like I said, these scenes need to have one thing happen and show multiple things at once. And that's exactly what that does. It tells us lore. It explains things. It allows us to understand something deeper very quickly. Fair play. Fair play. I like that answer. I really do.
Yeah, as far as like the double axe order, because I've been trying to look them up and get the character name,
I don't think it
and it
exists.
just says lead warder. It doesn't really
Yeah.
give any particular name here.
We'll see. But if it ends up being Elias, I'll be like, yep, awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be
It would
doing.
make sense.
Yeah, just you can merge two things, right? Because Elias obviously doesn't have his Aes Sedai anymore, and you need him in it because, or you need something like. Well, actually, no, maybe you don't need him in it. Maybe he can just discover his wolf brotherness from the wolves. But it's going to be interesting. That's for dang sure. Um, what did you think about the like visual effects of the Aes Sedai and the Oath Rod and the clips that we got of the White Tower?
I know there's a lot of nitpicking about like the
Whatever.
actual visual effects of it, but I think it looks fine to me. Like I
Yeah.
have no objections
Yep.
to it.
At
Um,
first, I thought the tower hall was a little small, but actually, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, yeah, but if you only have to fit in that many women, why would you have a bajillion? It doesn't
mhm,
have to be, you know, grandiose when actually you already know that there's only going to be 7 sets of three. So
mhm,
actually, why would you make it? And also, often when people talk about towers, you tower rooms are not wide because of the nature of it being in a flipping tower. So I'm like, yeah, actually, so the more I've looked at it, the more I've liked it. And even though we don't really have the shawls, which is a big change for not a big change, it's an annoying change. But actually, the more I watch the dresses in color coding, I'm like, actually, I'm quite up for this, and I do think the showrunners probably made the right call.
yeah, I don't mind at all. I think
No, I think it's
the
probably a good call.
costuming is fine. I don't
Agreed.
have a problem with it.
Um, and what do you think of the visualization of the one power itself? Because there's a few people who are like going, apparently, like I see it frequently in the comments. Why is the power one power white? It should have all these different colors in it.
I don't ever remember reading
It's
like an
never
explanation
described.
of the colors of these weaves. They just say weaves,
They just say
and
exactly, and most people
only
can't even see them.
yeah, yeah, like only the channelers could see these things,
Yeah,
and they're weaves. That's
that's it.
that's what they never say what color these things are. We don't know what color spirit is.
No, or Earth.
Uh, yeah, so they don't really say that these weaves have a color to them. I
No,
know when they construct things with the weaves, there might be like flashing colors and lights, but the weaves themselves, like the actual weaves, are never
no, they're
explained to
described
be colorful or
or
anything of
not.
that nature.
He doesn't describe them in color at all. Yes or no, it's not
Yeah.
relevant. But the thing
Like if
is,
this was a Lightbringer thing, then yeah, you'd have way
that's
more
completely different because in Lightbringer,
concerns. But
yeah,
this is not. I don't see the this as an actual argument. Like
no,
I've
it's
never
stupid.
read anything about colored weaves ever.
I think almost all of this argument as well comes from people listening to Daniel Green's first thing where he's like, I think it would be cool if there were 5 different colors. I think most of the people who are making that argument are people who've listened to that and are then going, there should be. And you're like, it's not in the book. It's not in the book. It's like,
Yeah, it would kind of make, I think, the showrunner's job a living hell because they'd have to go through all the lore.
and figure out like, well, she must be using earth and spirit and air here, so I'll make sure it's these 3 colors. And oh, he's mainly channeling fire here, so I need this color. And you just don't want to be doing that. It's not a cost effective way of running your show. That is for sure. Um, and I think we're just got a little bit of silence while Dusty deals with the customer. But it's important for us to.
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
Oh no, you were absolutely silent, but you're now
Oh,
back.
I don't know. I was saying stuff. I guess you just couldn't hear me. No, I was just saying that basically it's way too much work to
Yeah,
implement, and these things aren't even in the book. So I don't
yeah.
know why people are complaining.
spend your effort on something that's actually going to matter, like cinematography, Trollocs, the battle scenes, and the main character arcs. 100%. You
I
can't win
do
on
I
everything.
do hope though that they do show that hey, regular people can't see leaves.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and even like that, you don't even know if someone's holding the power unless you have the power. I
Right.
think that's important for so many plot things later on. Again, if they just say that everyone can see, like any channeler can see any channeler holding the power, using the power, I'm fine. Even though like there's a slight difference between men and women, I don't need that kind of level of detail. But absolutely, I do think I do think it's important to suggest that you can all see the effects of weaves, but only channelers can see weaves. I think is important. I do.
Mhm.
Um. So yeah. So anything else in the trailer that you saw that you specifically wanted to mention? Because I think I'm pretty much out.
Yeah, there's well, not something that was in the trailer, but absent.
Okay.
I know we got a Waygate and we got like Loyal there, but you can't even really see him at all. He's
No.
just like obscured by
Yeah. We didn't get
someone.
anywhere near any kind of proper look at Loyal like we did at the Trollocs. Not even close.
Right. And then, they did introduce a new locale because the locales that we know about previous to this trailer were the two rivers. We saw Tarvalin, and then
Yep.
we also saw Shadar Logoth.
Mm-hmm.
They added here the Borderlands or
Yep. Faldara.
Faldara. So there's like a lot of places in between, Faldara is kind of like the end point almost of
Yeah.
the first book, and then we still have well, Shadar Logoth is definitely a big deal
I
in the
think
first book.
I
It's
think
still pretty early on though.
I think Camlin's going to be missed out.
Possibly, yeah, because we haven't really gotten any look at that. I don't even know. I think they just cast Elaine not too long ago.
Yeah, and they're already guaranteeing a season 2, so I think that's for season 2.
And what I've also heard, I don't know if this is completely true, is that the first season's going to be both the first and second book.
Mm.
So
The
I
first
don't
season's going to
know.
be the
That's
first
what they.
2 books.
That's what I heard. I don't know
Uh,
how they're going to do this, considering.
I thought they said the
Um,
first because originally they said there's going to be multiple books in single seasons, but I thought they said that the first book will be the first season.
oh, are they doing that? Okay.
That was my understanding, is that there will be other seasons where they're going to merge books, but for the first season they're just going to do book 1. But
Oh, okay.
they're
Okay.
setting
Well,
up
that.
and they're drawing on New Spring, but I think it's going to climax with the Eye of the World.
Okay. Well, that's relieving because I was like, okay, if they're squishing both of these in the first season, like, where's the season two stuff at? You
Yeah,
know. And then we don't
I,
have Min. She hasn't shown up in
yeah.
any other trailers, and she was cast a while ago. So I know we haven't seen Pot on Fane, but I've seen a picture of Pot on Fane um, from a scene where he's with the wagon.
Hmm.
So I know for sure from what Rafe has said, actually the first character you're going to see on screen is Pot on Fane,
Oh, cool.
walking into the two rivers. That's basically the first scene that we're going to see, first character that we're going to see, which I thought was okay, cool. That's that's an interesting way to go. It's like, are they going to do the wind? The wind that comes from the mountain and
If if
it
if I
blows.
Yeah, if they are clever, they will do a wind shot, and it will go and ruffle Padan Fane's clothes as he walks in town, and then they can do it the first scene of each series and the last scene of each series just have a wind shot, and it can just be pulling from out to zoom in and then zooming in to out. That's all it
Yeah,
takes. They can do it with a ruffle, and then they can just have someone say, you know, the iconic line at the beginning and the end, and that's it. That's it. And they will it will be a lovely way of just book ending each series. They don't have to do it, but if they want to get a quick win, that can work.
Yeah, I know like the whole wind thing is kind of played out cinematically, but each book is opens that way, so it's
It
kind of
does.
hard
But you
to
can
ignore
totally,
that.
but you can ignore it, and if they do ignore it, it's not going to be a big deal. But what I'm saying is, it's just so easy to do. Yeah, just so easy to do. And
Right.
when people are like, "Oh, this is a trope," you're like, "Yeah, but it's a trope from the books," and like, "Oh, so it's actually cool and clever," and you're like, "Yep." And you get away with using the cinematic trick, and you can say, "Oh, look," but it was actually me being true to the lore. Um,
Mm.
but it's fine. Like as I said, I'm not fixated on things. Even if they make Lan more emotional, I'm okay. Even if Tom plays a guitar instead of a harp, I'm okay. Even if Waygates, instead of being like having like grass and leaves
Avend
falling,
the leaves from the tree of life, or
like I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Even if like fades just are cool fighters instead of moving faster than the eye can see. That like none of this is a problem for me. If
yeah.
if Matt ends up being a responsible, sensible, stay-at-home dad, then I've got a problem. You know, if they end up saying that the Dragon Reborn isn't actually a big deal because he definitely isn't going to go insane because he's probably a woman, I'm going to have a problem with that. If they end up saying that Perrin is a lunatic who goes insane in season 3 and ends up trying to kill all the other characters as he turns to the Dark One, I'm quitting. Okay, but as long as all they do is change the theme of it and make it work for film, no problem at all. No problem at all. That's fine. That's fine. I don't even mind if they include new love interests. I'm almost positive that we're going to have a lesbian love interest in the White Tower for sure because that's
Well,
hinted at.
the pillow friends,
Yeah, it's hinted at in the books anyway. So look, fine. And so I'm sure that they will go for that, and they'll probably need to go for it with a fairly major character. So I'm expecting someone like Leanne or Leandrin to be ragingly homosexual and like have a really powerful love story. Um, I really hope that if they do it to one of the main cast, that they pick on Egwene and not on Nynaeve, because I want the Nynaeve Lan relationship to happen. I think it's the best relationship in the books.
yeah.
Um, and I would be really gutted if we lost that. Whereas if we lose the Gawain Egwene relationship, it's not as big a deal to me personally. I, I
Yeah.
I would prefer it if they didn't. If they want to do it, that they don't tamper with existing characters and they just insert some new ones to have those relationships. But I I don't write it, and so if they change things like that around, fine. Don't care. Just do it. Be happy in your life. But, I really don't want them to just. I don't want them to change the key emotional character points of the main like 5 6 characters. That's all I ask. Leave their stories and let their stories happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we're days away from this, folks. It's
Dude,
it's gonna.
it's exciting, and I assume we're gonna have another podcast where we're gonna talk about the first episode in detail. Dusty, would that be correct?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about whatever they release on the 19th. If
Uh,
I'm assuming they're not releasing the whole season.
no, I think they're gonna do an episode a week.
Yeah. And maybe they might do more than one because on the first day, maybe they might do two. Because often season premieres are a bit longer than
Yeah, but there's
the.
only 8 episodes, like
Really, only eight.
only 8, and so it's
That's
like
so small. Well,
it is.
I guess you can condense the first book into eight.
Well, yeah,
Because I'm assuming that the first episode is going to end with Winter Night. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of seeing that it's probably going to go that quickly.
yeah. It's going to be pretty crazy. Well, I think the first episode is definitely called Leave Taking,
Yeah, so they're going to be
Well,
leaving.
yeah,
So Winter Night's going to have happened by then.
yeah, correct. So we're going to see the intro, and the leave taking and all that in one episode. In the second episode, it's called, I believe, something like Shadows. So that's going to be
Shadow
Shadow
Logoth.
Logoth. Then there's A Place of Safety, The Dragon Reborn, Blood Calls to Blood, and The Flame of Tarvalon. And so I think
Hmm.
we can start seeing there as things go forward. Like The Place of Safety, we're going to have Tinkers, right? And a town of some kind where they can meet Loyal. And then, but you can see how I don't think there's going to be a Camlin bit here with only 8 episodes. You also see why I don't think there's going to be The Great Hunt in just 8 episodes. Um, but then, because none of those episodes, the first 6 that we have titles for, none of them sound like the Borderlands, right? None of them. And so I think the Borderlands are just going to be episodes 7 and 8, which is why I don't think we can get any of the second book into
Yeah,
this.
Borderlands it definitely wouldn't be. It would be like either the last episode or the episode before the last,
Yeah, agreed. And
because
so,
that's right at the end of the book.
yeah, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying is that's uh he said I'll just read this. Showrunner Rafe Judkins has confirmed that season 1 will cover the first novel, with
Okay.
some aspects of the book being cut and used in later seasons. He
Hmm.
has also stated that aspects, not the storyline, but aspects of the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn will be included in the first season. But their storylines, like the actual travel, etc., will happen in the other one. One of the aspects I think of the Great Hunt that we're going to see is I think we will see Leandrin, and
Hmm.
Leandrin isn't in the first book, but it's quite
Right.
from the trailers. It looks pretty clear that she's going to be established as a villain in this season.
Hmm.
Valda isn't in the first book
Right.
at all, but it looks very clear that he will be established in this book. And I'm a big fan of all of that. I think that makes complete sense. And bravo, and you keep doing that, Rafe. Um, but I think the actual content of book 2 and 3, like the fighting with Dark Forsaken and the going to get the sword, is all going to be in season 2. I think season 2 will end in the Stone of Tyr.
Well, we don't even have any Forsaken cast, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
So
I wouldn't be
we don't know what's going
surprised.
to happen with that.
Yeah, if I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have multiple Forsaken at the Eye of the World. I would not be like I don't think they will.
Hmm.
I don't think they will.
Yeah, because they haven't announced any casting, which is interesting.
Uh, and
For
also, I'm also saying that there's only going to be 7 Forsaken. That's
oh,
my
yeah, they might definitely cut down on the number,
yeah.
but so far we have none cast officially yet.
It's going to be crazy, man. I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait. I just and the thing is, even if it's not what I want, even if it's very different from what I'm happy with, even if they are doing things like saying the Dragon Reborn can be anybody and etc., I just want it to be good so that other people will like it, so that other people will watch it, and then I can talk about Wheel of Time with loads and loads of people. I've already like got a bunch of people in my family and amongst my friends who are going to give this a shot, and they would never give 14 books of 900 pages odd each a shot, and
Right.
so that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about other people coming into this world that I love.
Yes, indoctrinating them into your nerddom.
Oh, even if they'll just let me talk to them. Like I'm good. I'm good. It's amazing what you can do. The casting looks good. The writing looks outstanding. Um, like like I the dress that they have them in, the artistry just looks spot on. And I'm just yeah, I'm really excited. I want it to go well. I want it to go well so badly.
Yeah, well, I'll have to see because I know I was easily able to get my wife into Game of Thrones because there's a lot of buzz around it, like outside of the
Mm,
nerd community. It was
yeah,
basically had become mainstream. So I was able to get her to watch it and she loved it.
yeah,
So we'll have to see if this gets, if I can get her to watch it. It would have to kind of generate buzz because without that buzz, it's hard for me to convince her to watch anything.
yeah.
Like even Squid Game, it's tough to get her to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the key point is if it catches her imagination.
right.
Um, that's what you need. You need people to look at it and go, I actually care about these characters at least a little bit. Like I
Oh
think,
yeah, she cared about them a lot. I remember she was really upset when Khal Drogo died.
yeah, I was,
Um,
man, I was.
yeah, she
And
was upset because that was basically her favorite character.
and the thing is, it's like one of the things about the way, hang on, I'm going to get distracted. But one of the things about the way Drogo dies is that one of the things that Martin does so well is he's like, yeah, if you don't treat a wound, sometimes it goes septic and you die, no matter how tough you are. And you're like, actually, that was like really what happened to so many
Mhm.
people. And Martin was just didn't pull that punch at all. And you're like, wow, yeah, that is what things like. And it's like, frick. And so I think it is good. And when one of the things that we'll see here is that Jordan was uh, not thinking about like he is doing a more fantastical um, story.
Right.
Yeah,
Like straight from the get go.
straight from the get go,
Hmm.
and it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
because Game of Thrones is very much, I would describe it to people as basically a soap opera in like a medieval soap opera with very light fantasy elements. Um,
Well, one of the things Game of Thrones does is it introduces increased magic as the series goes on, and they understand that with the revival of the dragons, magic comes back at the world. One of the things that's interesting with Wheel of Time is that the magic's there right from the get go, but as the series goes on, technology arrives in the world,
mhm.
and that's quite interesting. And one of the things that was really cool about Wheel of Time, compared to many other fantasy novels of the era, is that usually in fantasy novels, technology doesn't move or didn't. And in modern fantasy, it does. And one of
Yeah,
this was one of the what you call it, like the forerunners, the pioneer series that said things like that. That yeah, technology can move during the series. And
hmm,
when we see people like you know the Powder Mage, when we see things like Lightbringer, Brandon Sanderson's work, they are built on the hill that was founded on Wheel of Time.
right.
Yep. So Wheel of Time
'Cause-
isn't truly modern fantasy, but it was the bridge to modern fantasy.
yeah, because I know he still has some Tolkien tropes.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. And
yeah,
on
because I
purpose.
know one of the Tolkien tropes is, well, if we're talking about the Wheel of Time,
Mhm.
is that like there is magic in the world, but people are becoming less reliant on it
Mm.
as time passes. So you see that they become like if you compared like the Days of Legend to current, there's definitely a diminishment of the amount of magic that has been both accepted and used in the world.
And technology also, right? They had like
Right.
flying planes and show wings and stuff. And the point is that they used to have this high society, it's been lost. And Lord of the Rings also has that with basically their version of Atlantis, as in Numenor. Uh, and so he was absolutely hearkening to those themes. 100% he was. And having like the rider turn up to the village and seeking some country guys who were going to save the world. This is also extremely Tolkien-esque. Um,
Hmm.
and even with the idea of like Lan like Strider, Moraine like Gandalf, and the Edmondsfield Five like the Four Hobbits, it's all very, very, very thematic. Um, but
Hmm.
but it's a very, very different story, as anyone who stays to read it or watch it will find out. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
It's
was trying to
and
make that comparison too with Game of Thrones. Like you can't have the opposite going on.
yeah,
Uh,
you can.
Instead of magic dwindling in the world, it's actually getting
Returning.
bigger and returning, and you have these different sources. Like you have the White Walkers, you got um, those
The
who
dragons.
the dragons, those who worship the gods of the light,
Yeah,
um, and all these
yeah, the
other
fire.
forces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, there's like no magic. Nobody's like believing anything about magic. It's
No.
like, yeah, yeah, White Walkers, that's full of crap. And then by the end of when you get more into the series, you have all of this magic going on. People getting resurrected,
Yeah,
uh,
and they're like, oh
which
crap.
yeah, Caitlin Stark becomes like this lich of some
Yeah,
sort. That's not in the show, by the way, people. So if you hear us talking
is it
about
not?
no,
They don't bring back
uh-uh,
Caitlin.
no.
Oh, really?
You
Oh
haven't seen the show, man?
no, because Dusty, I have like, it's gonna sound weird, but like
Oh, because the books aren't done. That's why you're not going to
no,
watch it.
it's not just the books I've done. Like I don't watch shows with loads of nudity in. I just don't do it.
Ah,
I there's that, like, we've all got our own line, and my line is that sort of stuff. I,
okay, there's too
I
much
I'll take it to a
adult
level.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I typically don't watch things that in England are rated 18. Um, I
Okay.
I I just, it's just a personal choice. But I know that it was apparently an excellent show, and people thrived on it. I watched some of the first season, but then I realized how far they were going, and I'm like, this just is
Yeah,
not my
I'm
standard.
with you there, except I'll make myself uncomfortable and still watch it.
Yeah.
Like those scenes to me are uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, but
Uh,
they're relevant because the book is like,
the
if you're
book is
going,
like that,
yeah,
yeah.
if you're going into a whorehouse and you're talking about your woman doing you over and stuff, like Tyrion is very clear about what he's doing in many of his scenes, and so
Yeah, but they
I
don't
have
give him they don't, yeah, I guess they do give him some
I don't
joy on the show, but not as
I
much as the book does.
yeah, because I'm not here to rag on the show or anything like that. I'm just saying that individuals have to make their own call, and that's why I haven't watched the show. I don't not watch that show because I thought it was bad or I was whatever. It was because I personally had that line. But I am glad that I don't know the ending, and I don't really want to know it, so I'm just going to read it. And
Yeah, the ending of the show is not as universally lambasted, so
it
I'll
is.
just leave it there.
But anyway, just one last thing that I want
Uh,
to bring out is that someone said that they were like, hey, Brandon Sanderson's like a producer on this. Why isn't his name on it? Why does it
I think
say?
he's just a consultant, right?
Yep, but he's in as an executive producer on, I think, two of the episodes. But
Okay.
yeah, he's not a major player in it, and he isn't pretending to be. But one of the things I heard was some fans going, "Oh, it's a disgrace. Like, it says Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. It should say Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson." And I just want to state for anyone listening that Brandon Sanderson is absolutely fine with that. He has stated multiple times that he sees the series as Robert Jordan's and considers it only a pleasure that he got to assist with finishing it. He has not been gypped by having his name not added on the series. He does not mind. So if anyone
Yeah.
thinks that he is like angrily dry washing his hands because they haven't slapped his name in front of Rob or beside Robert Jordan's, that could not be less true of the way that he himself has personally expressed his interest. So just wanted to
Right.
throw that out there because when the trailer, it has like a big thing where it's like Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and I saw some comments on some videos like, why isn't Brandon Sanderson's name on this? And I thought, I think we just need to
Well,
make sure that everyone understand that the man himself does not care about that at all, and would
yeah, and if you're
prefer it.
thinking like completely objectively, like we're talking about season one here,
Yeah, absolutely.
like maybe if we're getting into like the Gathering Storm and stuff, maybe they might put his name there, but right
But
now
it's
it's not.
unnecessary. It's
Yeah,
unnecessary. And one of the things is the man himself never saw the Wheel of Time as his thing. He's just
Right.
like, yeah, and I always worry when other people sort of take up the take up an argument on behalf of someone who doesn't even want them to take it up. It's just like you know, I'm gonna get angry because I think they're being discriminatory to you, and you're like, well, I don't think so. Please shut your mouth. It's like, why are you making this problem? Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw that out there because I saw it in some of the comment sections, and I was just like, please don't make that a thing.
Yeah, I don't know why they would. It's like
People
it's
just
too
want
early to
drama.
even have that conversation.
Yeah, people just want
Even,
drama.
yeah, you know how people are.
Ugh.
People will start drama over everything. Like I'm in a bunch of different Wheel of Time Facebooks, and this drama started all the time in those things about, oh, this character isn't like I think someone was making a complaint that Leandrin's mouth wasn't a rosebud or something like that. I was like, who gives a crap? Like, where's the ageless faces? It's like, yeah, how are you gonna do that? What is
That
an
was
ageless
so
face? Can you
expensive.
please describe that face for me? And what's the what is the natural analog for that in the real world? Like, where can I look for this ageless face?
Yeah, there isn't one, and that's one of the things the books can do that like we can't really do. But that's fine, It's like, come on, just get with the program, guys. Get with the program. A-
Yeah, this
Anyway,
is not a big deal.
one last thing then before we call it. What do you think is what scene are you most looking forward to seeing in season one?
Season one, well, whenever I read the book, the scenes that I look forward to are the travel through the Blight, just because of how different that place is from everywhere else in the world.
Yeah,
And the other thing is how so little of the Blight is covered throughout the rest of the series.
yeah,
So you get the Blight once in like the beginning of the series, and you don't get back to it till almost the end in the last battle. There are some like prologue scenes where you see some of the Forsaken talking to the Dark One in his hell cave or whatever you want to call it. But man, the Blight is so freaking creepy. I can't wait to see how they cover like these elements and how they're going to show how gross and rotten the place is. I just want to see because I think the Blight will take the most imagination out of the people making the show. Like I can see all the other places. Okay, these are kind of real world places that you can have analogs to, but the Blight, that's like something totally different. So I'm really looking forward to the Blight. You know, the creatures roaming there, seeing the fallen Malkir, and you know that tension that happens when they're traveling through this place. So I'd say that, and yeah, definitely. I wouldn't have said Winter Night previously because in the books you don't really get to see Winter Night.
but this looks
But
cool.
yeah, but this is like, oh, we're gonna get to see it this time. So I'm really looking for, as far as like the show and knowing what's going to be in the show. Yeah, I'm looking really forward to seeing how Winter Night plays out.
Cool, cool.
And how about you? What are you looking forward to see this first season?
I think the things I want to see the most is like some things I think that might be a little obvious. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Tarwin's Gap. I just think let's see how they resolve that.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm
that's such a weird scene in the
but I'm
book.
I I think they'll do it differently, and
Mhm.
I'm totally okay with them doing it differently. I'm actually kind of hoping they'll do it better. But like I want to see that. I think that'll be super cool. But actually, one of the things I'm most looking forward to is Perrin and the Wolf Brother stuff.
Ah,
Like, I want to see if they do the Wolf Dream, and if they can do it well. I would
mm,
love to see that. I would love to see that because I love the whole idea of like wolves and the spiritual connection. And one of the things I love is that it doesn't go werewolf because I don't find the werewolf thing very cool. I always think it
Hmm.
looks a bit weird and knobbly and ugh. But like the fact that that isn't where Perrin goes, but there's that bestial connection. I love that, and I would love to see like a bit of the dreamscape with Hopper or something like
Hmm.
that. And I really want. I also really think this Perrin actor looks the business, and I just think
Yeah,
he,
he's like real tall and he's pretty
yeah, but
heftily built.
but it's not only that. Like he looks calm, right? He doesn't look like he's going to rip your arms off. He
Right.
looks like a Perrin kind of character.
Hmm.
And in the few scenes that we've seen him act in this, he comes across like a country guy. Yeah, he's big and tough, but he's a country guy. And I love Perrin, my favorite character, and I really think that will be super cool.
Yeah,
And
I did watch one of the actor interviews, and he is well aware that his character is kind of portrayed as like a gentle giant. So he knows that he's not supposed to be super, this super macho aggressive guy.
yeah, if he
Um,
comes off acting like The Rock, then something's gone wrong. Yeah.
right. Like he's supposed to be wary of combat. We know his conflict between the hammer and the axe, and that's a conflict that he has straight away in the first book.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
See, what
absolutely.
I'm worried about is if they're going to skip the conflict he has when, as I'm wondering, are they going to keep the Raven portion in where he thinks he might have to mercy kill Egwene, you know, be, rather than being torn apart and by ravens, So I thought that was a pretty formative scene for the character. So I'm hoping they have that in there, but I'm
Mhm.
I'm doubtful that they
Yeah,
will.
I think there's very little chance that that will make it in. But yes, and the thing is, one of the things that is going to be interesting is a lot of what happens with Perrin, right, is in his head. Like a lot of his
Hmm.
conflict, and actually, this is true of Matt. This is true of Rand. This is true of a lot of the characters in a book. You can get in their heads. We do get in their heads. We get in their heads a lot in the books, and we see all their internal conflict, all their
Hmm.
worries and their concern. How is the show going to get us to feel that when we're not in their heads? And so it's going to be interesting to see how they do it and if they do a good job. And I hope they do.
Right.
I I believe they did a good job with getting Tyrion's character across without being in his head in Game of
Right.
Thrones. So they
Right.
obviously can do it, and I just hope they do it as well in this show as they apparently did in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm excited. From what I've seen so far, I don't think I'm going to be disappointed.
No, no. And the thing is, you're not like you talked about some of the ridiculous things people complain about. You're not
Hmm.
in that mold. You're not sitting looking for problems. You're just like, give me a good show, and then that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm basically in the mode of, you know, um,
As long as it's good, right?
yeah, like I want to be the recipient of, like, say that let's personify Wheel of Time into a person. So I want Wheel of Time to be, uh, uh, like you've seen The Gladiator, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I want the Wheel of Time to open its arms and scream, are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained?
I want them to scream that out, and I want to be, yes, I am quite entertained here. Thank you. That's all I care about, really.
Are you not?
If they do it right, and if I'm truly entertained and entertained by it, I don't
Yeah.
want it to be boring. I don't want it to lose my interest. I just want to be,
Mm.
even if they go slightly in different directions, can they resolve those directions, and are those directions entertaining?
Yeah.
That's what I care
Absolutely.
about. And if it's not exactly like the books, that's fine. But like when I
Agreed.
watched the
Agreed.
Wheel of Time, I'm sorry, when I watched the Game of Thrones, I had never read any of the books, and immediately after the first season, I jumped right into the book. So I'm hoping it has a similar effect for other people.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think in some ways one of the advantages that this has is I think even though it can get quite dark and it has very adult themes, it doesn't it isn't as um heavy on the like gore and the and sexualization as Game of Thrones books are. So it
Yeah,
might have,
until we get to do my as wells.
yeah, but even then, but even Demise Wells is like people blowing up, right?
Right.
It's not someone who's sitting down torturing you and cutting off bits of your body and then making you
Oh
eat
yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. It's
And and
definitely not
and
that.
so like the thing is, what I'm saying is there's a this could have, if it's done really well, if it's done on the same sort of super high quality as we got with the great acting that we got in Game of Thrones, this could have a wider appeal. Like genuinely, it could.
Hmm.
If it does well, because there are people who can show this to a wider audience. It is
Right.
more accessible to your basic teenager
Well,
than,
it's going to be more accessible simply because more people have Amazon Prime than they have HBO.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so I'm excited. I'm really hopeful that that this that this works.
Yeah, and even
I
if it
think it will.
doesn't, we still have the books.
Yeah, and at least we got one show. At least we got a show.
Yeah,
But
well, we have 2 seasons at least, so
yeah,
um, because I was just thinking, what other things has Amazon picked up and not gone forward with,
yeah.
like for instance, The Expanse. Do you-
Yeah, I watched I watched the first series of The Expanse. I thought it was excellent.
It is. So The Expanse is the next season. There is their last season, and that's at season 6, and they're ending at book 6,
Uh
um, which is actually completely fine with me because it
yeah,
makes a lot of sense if you read all the books.
and you've still done the main part of that story,
Yeah, because it would be very difficult to continue the story with their current actors
right?
because there's a 30-year time jump.
Yeah. So it's an appropriate place.
Yeah, it's definitely appropriate. Because what are you gonna do? Like make up all the actors to make them all older? Because I know um, people are more capable at older ages in this universe. So
Agreed.
Holden and Amos and all those cats, they're all in their 70s and they're
Mhm.
still somewhat kicking butt. That's because, hey, this is the future and people live a bit longer. Uh, Avasarala is like 100 and she's still cognitively competent.
But one of the
And
key things is that, like, I mean, you can totally do that if you do that with a show, because they could just do it a couple of years later and do it. But the problem is the actors also want to do something different, right? They don't want to
right,
give 20 years of their life to just one thing.
right, right. And that's the tough thing about Wheel of Time is like there's so many books, but you don't want to obligate these actors
Well,
for
we've already
years
seen
and
with
years and
Matt's,
years on
right?
end.
We've already seen that Matt's character is going to have to be acted by someone else in season 2.
Right. So, and then you've seen it in Game of Thrones. Some actors have come in and out.
Yeah.
I guess the Mountain was what he went through 3 iterations.
Oh, did he?
Um,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
there were 3 mountains. There's like a mountain for the first season, and they changed the mountain again, and then the final mountain, which is the best mountain. Um,
Oh, was he?
yeah, the final mountain was just ridiculously huge. He was like the first mountain was like big and tall. Second mountain was like pretty tall, but the last mountain was like a human anomaly.
Right. That's
Um,
what he should be, because
like
no, that is what he
I
should
think
be.
it's
That is how he's
like
described.
yeah, the guy they used for the mountain, I think he's like 6'8" or something, and he was in like a strongman competition, so he's as big as those people in the strongman competition. So imagine like this 6'8" dude who's like as big as a power lifter. You're like, Jesus Christ, that is a ridiculous person. Definitely a mountain that rides.
Which is awesome, right? That's exactly what you want, because that is the way he's described. Just so
Right.
ridiculous. Like he can't. Like, is he even human?
Yeah, because the actor that plays the Hound, he's tall too. He's
Mm.
like 6'5" or 6'6",
Yeah, and
but
he
he's
should
not.
be.
Yeah, but he's not built like a power lifter. he's he's tall, but he's not like a huge like strongman guy type of
And,
guy.
and but that's cool because that's exactly the point. Everyone sees the Hound and they're like, "My goodness, this guy is such a big badass." And then it's like actually compared to his brother, he's like a pipsqueak, and his brother like bullies him. And you're like, "Oh, can someone bully this guy?" And actually, it's a really cool point that Martin makes, which is, no matter how big a dog you think you are, there's always a bigger dog
Right,
somewhere.
right.
Yeah. And like, all the people who bully other kids in school, eventually they all come up against someone who can kick the crap out of them. And then they get their taste of it. And it's like, dang it. And that's why there's a line in the book of Game of Thrones, which is that if you use your strength, or I think actually he's talking about looks. It's like if a woman uses her looks to like manipulate and control a man, will find the same thing happens to her as happens to men who use their strength to do the same thing. Age takes it away from you, and then you're left with nothing. You're like, ooh, burn. And that's why you need to learn to rely on not looks and physical strength, because in the end they will fail you.
Okay, so I found some stats for the guy who played the mountain.
Yeah, go on.
He's 6'9".
Wow.
Okay, and he weighs 452 pounds, which is 205 kilograms.
200, that's almost 4 times my weight, dude.
Well,
That's
if you saw what he looked like, I'm telling you, the guy is not fat.
it's crazy because like I am let me put it into feet and inches. I'm 6'1" ish,
hmm
and I weigh let's say 110 pounds, not even.
Man, you're underweight.
Yeah, I am. Um,
You're
like
underweight for your height. You should
I
probably be around like 170.
yeah, I am like when I went to do what we call the BMI, the body mass index.
Uh-huh.
I was my wife was going to see if she could lose some weight, and they said you're further out than she is. Like she's over by a little, you're under by a lot. And I'm like, it's what I get for being me. Stupid high metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some ridiculous people. I was like, dude, the amount of candy that you eat, you should have like a huge belly.
Yeah.
This
I'm
guy was like always eating like candy bars like constantly.
yeah. My friends say that I look like I'm a man made of pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners.
Because my arms are all like super thin and my legs are super thin. Anyway,
uh,
but
but
we should probably end considering we've gone way off topic.
yes, yes. So I'm guessing since the episodes, well, at least the new series is going to start on the 19th, right?
Yeah,
And if possible, we can talk the next weekend after that
yeah,
premiere.
absolutely. The sooner the better if we want people to listen.
Right. So it's going to be on the 19th, which is what day of the week is that? Let me look at my calendar here. Da, da, da. Month view. So 19th is going to be on a Friday. So we're basically going to talk about it the next day.
Which would be ideal if to hit the algorithm.
Yeah. So 19th, we're talking about it on the 20th. So that gives us a full day to enjoy it. Man, if they're releasing this on midnight, I might be watching it on the midnight of that night.
I don't think I. Like you see, your wife is clearly more lenient with you than mine is with me. There's no way that she'd be watching it at midnight. So I'll be watching it the next day. But Justine's gonna watch it with me, so that's good times.
Right, right.
And hey, that's another thing I'll bring into the comments. I'll be like, this is what I thought. This is what my wife, who has no clue, thought. And like, so that might be a fun thing to talk about, like from someone who, like, what was the reaction of someone who has no interest sitting next to someone who has all the interest. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't. In my area around here, I don't know anyone else who cares as much about Wheel of Time as I do. Like I'm in only a small town, so it's like there's no one else here who cares as much about Wheel of Time as me. But my wife has like no interest whatsoever. So it's going to be really interesting to see her take and my take. And
Right.
yeah, I'll be dying to talk to you about it, Dusty. That's going to be great.
All right. So yeah, check us out on the 20th. That's
With
when we're
Andrew?
gonna. Yeah, Andrew. Um, hopefully he'll be here. We'll
He
see.
probably will. He's wanted to talk about these trailers. So
Yeah, he just needs to figure out his sleep schedule or whatever
yeah,
he
agreed.
needs to do. But yeah, the 20th with Andrew, we're gonna talk about the premiere, and man, is that getting close? Wow. I don't know. This is just kind of one of the days I thought I'd never see. And it's like here in 2 weeks. So, okay, that's when we're going to talk about the show. As far as hmm, Winter's Winter's Heart goes, I'm guessing we'll probably talk about that by the end of the month. I'm thinking maybe the first week of December, hopefully, because I know we haven't gotten into it yet. But um, yeah, if are they releasing these things weekly? Do you know?
That was my impression, is that it was going to be weekly.
Shoot. Well, if they're doing these things weekly, um, we'll probably talk like once every other week about these shows being dropped, and we'll have to sneak in like a Winter's Heart in between one of those. Either that or combine it with some of these episodes. We'll have to see.
Yeah, well, we can just do the show for a while, and that'll give us a chance to get ahead with Winter's Heart.
Yeah, we can because the show's going to be running for a couple months. So yeah, I guess we'll just focus on the show for now, and then we'll get back into the books once they're on hiatus until next season.
Yeah, and by then you can have read about two of them, and we'll be ahead instead of behind. All right.
All right, well, everybody, take it easy and join us next time for our Watt Chat post the premiere. And I think me and Andrew, I'm trying to think if we have anything planned next week. If we do, I believe we might be talking about probably some political stuff, or I'll have to keep you guys up to date, but we haven't made any concrete plan for next week. But thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe, evangelize about the coolness of Wheel of Time. I'm pretty sure it will be evangelized once the show drops and people start talking about it. But thank you for watching and have a great night.
All right. Ciao for now, dude.